It's very important to always maintain and understand what you know, what you're good at, and then also know what you don't know and what you could get better at, and always maintaining that. No matter how good you are at an industry or a skill, you can always get better. At the end of the day, getting frustrated or feeling like you're the victim of someone else making a mistake and going into that kind of thing, it just isn't productive. It doesn't get anything done. It doesn't move things in the direction you want them to move. So a measured approach is gonna win all the time, just about.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Trust Business Podcast. We're having a little different segment today. My name's Don Campbell. I obviously work for Trust Roofing. Typically in this seat is Robin. Robin's typically here interviewing our guests, and we switched it up a little bit. So we're gonna go through a whole segment about introducing the team to our podcast, introducing different roles and responsibilities within the company. And so I'm excited to interview Robin today. I'm really going to be a fun interview.
Let's do it. It's going to be aggressive. We're going to
go fast paced. That's how we do it here, right? You know, we're moving really fast. I'm going to jump right in. So we know a little bit about your background, family business, but tell us why you took on this exciting role as CEO.
Oh my goodness. I mean, yeah, when we started Trust Roofing out here in Florida, I didn't even think of myself as a CEO. I thought of myself as just the everything, you know what I mean? Which is the CEO. But I mean, I would sell the roofs. I was going up and doing the roofs, and we started off small, just with an idea of doing one roof at a time. Later on, deciding to scale the company and move it further beyond that, small model into something bigger. I think that I saw an industry that I loved, and I saw an ability I felt like to impact that and have a positive impact in it. And I think I really like the idea of that. So I think that's when I kind of decided to step up into a bigger role and kind of scale and stuff like this.
Yeah, well, you grew up on the roof. You grew up in the industry. And so you brought some of the technical knowledge much earlier. So we mostly see people getting the technical side in their late 20s, and they end up in a leadership position later on in the roofing career. But you fast tracked that. You learned really aggressively on the roof, and then took that entrepreneurial customer-facing approach, which I love. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So yeah, I started roofing when I was 15 years old. So tons and tons of experience on the roof and doing that thing. Then when we were out here and starting it, then I really fell in love with the client in front of me and the client interaction and the pursuit of getting the client a great result and what that was like. And when you really nailed that, and then especially with your team and you and your team nailed that, nothing felt better. It was just that was the freaking coolest thing ever, right? So then I got really good at that, and I got really obsessed with figuring out, what does the client want? What do they need? It ends up they need communication, they need updates, they need transparency when things don't go the way you want them to go, et cetera, all the way down the line. So I got really obsessed with that whole process and procedure. And when we were small and we were just doing, like I said, one roof at a time, I tried to perfect that on that size model. And then now we're here, and then now we're trying to figure that out at scale with many project managers and many sales reps, and how do we make sure all of them are doing it that same way still at scale. So
yeah, it's fascinating. What do you think about, there's a phrase that I heard said, it says, team will beat talent when talent isn't a team. But I take that phrase sort of a group of people that want to work together for a common vision. And I think, from my position, I've heard you cast this vision so clearly in building a team. We have a young team. We have so many future incredible leaders. And so what are some of the frustrations that comes with that? And tell me about how you feel about team and how important that is here at Trust Roofing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really challenging running a large team in the roofing industry because there's so many different moving parts. There's so many things that can go right, and therefore there are also so many things that can go wrong, right? It's a challenging industry. And it is very easy to get frustrated. I have always learned that at the end of the day, I always have to figure out what I did and where my cause point is for things. That's always only the answer. But there's frustrations, I mean, again, for me, the client is everything. That client and their experience in front of me when I'm operating, that's everything. So, if I see somebody, a team member, and I feel like the way that they operated wasn't with that in mind, then that's always frustrating because that's truly what I believe in. So that can be frustrating, but that's part of being a leader, is that not everybody, they may not have that same passion for that client as you do. And you have to figure out how to get that within them more, and then B, put systems in place so that it's as easy for them as possible to basically take that client to that end spot that you want them to go to. But that can be frustrating when anything goes wrong or things don't go the way that you want them to go. It can be frustrating.
Yeah, I've seen you interact with our team when they don't meet that high standard that you have set, and so I want to compliment the patience that you have. I mean, I'm 52, you're 27, right? And I've said this publicly and to our team and to the rest of our staff is your patience and your leadership. You mentioned the word leader, me being a leader, you being a leader. And I think it's so important to recognize what leadership looks like. And I've seen you jump in when a truck needs loaded and things like that. And I think that's a difference between leadership and somebody that's behind the scenes, like, get this done, barking out orders.
Yeah.
I think you have a pretty good blend. Was that always a natural thing for you? Did you have the gift of leadership always? Were you always a leader in things that you did?
No, I would not say so whatsoever. But there were times in my life where I, was put in a position to, be over people. Okay. And that was a new thing at the time. And what I found that the most successful way to get others aligned with what you wanted was, and again, it's just a common thing, leading by example, right? Showing by the way that you operate and the way you take action and the speed at which you do it, the way at which you do it, etc., leading that way, rather than just telling people how it's done or how great it could be or how you could do it so well. Show them that and do that, and then they will tend to follow. So like when I, for example, on the roof doing roofing, my thing was always, of course, you wanted guys to work quick and work hard and work fast, because it's a physical thing. It's how quick can you get those shingles off? How quickly and obviously with quality can you get the shingles on, right? So I would do that as fast as humanly possible. If I'm going to take a trash bag to the thing, I'm walking fast. I'm walking quick and with energy.
Yeah,
I'm going to lay shingles. I'm going to do it with energy. If I'm going to run peel and stick out, I'm going to do that with energy. And I'm going to try to figure out how can I do that as quick and efficiently as possible, while maintaining quality, of course. And that was my whole thing. If I was going to magnet the ground, I was going to do that as quick as possible, and just always kind of leading into that, and then helping my guys try to get to that spot. So just leading by example, it's everything and anything that you're going to do, I feel like. Yeah.
Well, I think what I like most about what you just said is one thing is, as I keep hearing this same thing, and obviously we see it on the day-to-day here, is like, are we measuring everything against a satisfied 5-star customer, right? Everything seems to be measured against that. And I know that we're a work in progress. We have imperfections as a company because there's human beings here. So I guess one of my other questions would be like, when I've been most impressed with your patience, and I've been in my role where I feel great that our relationship's so close that you can say, hey, I'm a little frustrated right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have a place that we can
too,
soundboard to one another. And but I think, I guess, were you always a patient young man? Is that something that you've just, another one of those virtues that you've had to work on personally?
No, I was not always. And to be honest, I still am not always. I think I show it really well, like around here for the most part, right? But maybe like my mom or my dad, they might tell you, oh, Rob, they'd probably say I'm patient, but maybe they've seen a different side of me before when I was younger. So definitely not always something. But I think that measured approach, because at the end of the day, getting frustrated or being feeling like you're the victim of someone else making a mistake and going into that kind of thing, it just isn't productive. It doesn't get anything done. It doesn't move things in the direction you want them to move. So a measured approach is going to win all the time, just about.
Well, I think, for you move at a fast pace. You just mentioned, I walk fast when I'm on the roof. I want to do things efficiently. And because you do that so efficiently, I think to balance, you have to increase the virtue of patience. You have to go, look, I move faster and more efficient than some people that are on the team. And so I would imagine, like, there's times, and I've seen you do this, which I think is quite remarkable from a leadership standpoint, take a breath and pause and like, all right. And that's such an incredible gift. And we don't often see it in young leaders, right? I really do think you're outside the box with your vision for the industry. and how you treat your team and the things you want to do. Tell me about or tell us about this chair that you normally sit in doing the interviews. Sometimes you have other competitors, if you will, other people in the roofing industry.
Yeah.
Tell us why that's important.
Yeah. I think collaboration is like really, really key, like within an industry. Like I've been able to take a different view, because if you're with someone else and you're both in the same industry going in the same direction, you might have a different viewpoint or standpoint on something than him, and you might be able to help him with that, and they might be able to help you with that. And I've gotten some of my absolute best insights and some great ideas, some great ways to go about things from other roofing company owners who I'm friends with, or who I watch their podcasts, or who I check out, or what have you. And it's just, the collaboration, if the end goal is to create a great client experience and a smooth production process, and that's both people's end goal, if you both work together on that, then all tides will rise up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because that helps everybody. So that's kind of what I see. Even if somebody's in my market, there's so many roofing companies out there. They're probably 500, just in the Tampa Bay area. Some bigger, some smaller, but there are a lot. So, working with another competitor isn't going to really mean much in the grand scheme of things.
Tell me your thoughts on the idea. So, for example, I was with one of our clients the other day, a referral partner of ours, and they were shopping, and they had a pretty simple roofing system, but our price was in the middle, which is typically where we're at. We're not going to be the cheapest, the most expensive, but their pricing structure was, one was over $4,000 cheaper than us, and one was almost $5,000 more. And one of the things that I love the fact
that for shingles or tiles?
It was a shingle roof, which shouldn't be that. We're talking about an $8,000 swing between 5 companies. And so I love your approach about what's fair in the marketplace, not only for the consumer, hey, how do we narrow that for them? How do we communicate? And that's why I hear you say, when your collaboration is can we get to where it's a better experience for the roofing consumer across the board?
Yeah, well, the problem is there's just things that my company might provide, or this company might provide, that another company just isn't providing. And some of it is hard for the client to see. It might not even be optics, but it's okay, down to not just how well do you pay your crews or your guys, but are you paying the workers' comp on them? Are you paying, the liability insurance? Sure. These kind of things that you might not see optically as a consumer as much, but behind the scenes, the owners know whether it's there or not. And it's important that it's there, because it's there to protect the consumer. So there's some things that optically you can't see when you're just reading a bid or looking at a proposal. For sure. Down to just what are their practices if they have a callback and a leak? What are their practices if they damage a sprinkler, at your property? Because, okay, it doesn't sound like a lot. Maybe it's $300. But if a company consistently makes a decision that we don't take responsibility for that, and another one does, that adds up to a lot, and then that scales across the board in lots of different ways. So, it's just important to educate consumers everything that goes into your price in roofing, for them to understand, because otherwise it's going to get confusing. And then there are some people who, this is the vast minority of people, not many people do this. There's some people who just do price really high, and I don't really see a reason for it. Sure. It almost seems like just I don't know. There's some companies in this marketplace that just charge 50% higher than some others in shingles, and it doesn't really make sense for me. I don't see the extra value, for example, that company's putting in to be that much higher. But
yeah, it happens. You mentioned something about and just sprinklers and follow through on things that do happen in our industry. So talk about really quick about core value number one. What is our number one core value? Remember, you're having people from the outside watch this, but also some of your teammates are watching this. And I think this is a moment to communicate again across to our team, hey, what is most important to Robin? Are those the core values? I said it's probably 2 questions. One, talk about the first core value. And then second question would be, what is really most important to Robin? We know the customer is important, but maybe what's important, how you communicate that to the team. I probably have 3 or 4 more questions too on top of that.
But okay, we're talking about 100% ownership.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, good. Yeah, just making sure. So yeah, just that as a core value. I mean, that's just again going back to what I was talking about. You can never you're never going to win, you're never going to do well, you're never going to progress by shifting blame anywhere but inwards, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's going to be tough because there can be other people involved in situations. But the point is looking inwards and seeing what could I have done better and what can I do now? And if somebody is involved, what can I do about them? Can I help them? Can I work with them? Maybe they shouldn't be on the team anymore. Whatever the solution might be, but always looking inward for solutions. And that's just always what I'm about. And, like if we're doing a roofing project, the mindset is 100% ownership. So, okay, like a garage door, how can we can put a piece of plywood up to cover that, right? There are simple actions that you can take to minimize the chance of risk. You can tarp off a driveway. You can put plywood over a driveway. You can protect shrubs so they won't get damaged, rather than a process of like, well, I could also just have it in my fine print that if we damage the shrub, it's not taken care of, and then go after it that way. Or we can go, hey, how do we? And the answer to that is there is a way to take care of almost all that stuff. There's a few things that you can't account for, like AC or plumbing lines that are right up against the roof deck.
Oh yeah.
There's almost no way to inspect every square inch of the attic to confirm and verify that.
Sure.
So, that's something that nobody can predict for. But for the most part, you're able to take 100% ownership when you go to a roof to make sure that project comes out the way that the company wants it to come. So that's just how I think. It doesn't mean we're always going to have that. Nothing's going to happen. They are, but then if they do, with that mindset being the earlier mindset, you now take responsibility for it and you make that right. And again, I try to build my pricing model in such a way so that we're able to take care of people. So it means we might not be the cheapest, but we also are a company that's operating with that value.
Follow through, so important, so important. Yeah, I really love that concept of ownership and taking responsibility. I think we had a conversation this morning about like circumstances you don't just get to forget about your responsibilities because circumstances come up, right? It's important to have the integrity to be able to follow through with the responsibilities, even if circumstances arise. So, all right, some fun stuff. What is your favorite part about the roofing industry?
My favorite part about the roofing industry, I would just say, is the blue collar labor and just the toughness of that job of roofing, of the trade. Like, it's so brutally difficult and challenging, but the people who do it and confront it are just some of the most incredible people you would ever meet. Just like some of these guys, just how hard they work every single day, but then still also just how humble a lot of them are. I mean, that's my favorite part, is like the work and then the people who do the work out there in the field.
Okay. What's next for you in this industry? I know your vision is massive, and I love that. And we're working really hard on scaling that. Yeah. But you're a young man. You have a lot of horsepower and a lot of bandwidth to do things more than this. So you have any other dreams that are outside the roofing industry?
Yeah. Right now, I'm really, really focused in on roofing, and I'm doing this thing pretty full on. Not right now, but who knows what time will bring. But like right now in the roofing industry, I mean, I see a lot of things. I see continuing to work on the labor side of it. Yeah. Because I love them, and I love the blue collar labor in this industry. There's also opportunities to improve and work on improvement of just the cleanliness, the professionalism, the presentation, the quality of the workmanship. So continuing to work on that big time with our company, and in general through training and through stuff along these lines, company culture, right, stuff like this. Sure. Also in roofing, I see in the future roofing, I see roofs being sold online, at least to a bigger degree than they are right now. There's some companies who already do this. So I see that being a way that things move forward, and figuring out how maybe we could be a part of that is one thing. And just, utilizing technology within this construction space. Sure. Because that's one thing that I've done to some degree so far, is trying to utilize technology to our advantage. And I just see so much more room to continue doing that, both with my company and industry-wide, and how technology can positively impact trades businesses for the benefit of both the consumer and the employees, the roofers, the salespeople, what have you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I'm going to go back to like 100% responsibility a little bit. We mentioned about how we take care of a customer from that. But what about teammate? When a teammate's maybe not, producing the way they should, or making excuses about their behavior, or maybe just, having a bad day and taking something out on the team. How do you hold the team accountable to that kind of 100% responsibility internally?
Yeah, well, it's a two-way street. Number one, you have to always take responsibility. Because you're the guy who hired that guy.
That's right.
The guy who's managed him up until this point. You're the guy who leads him day in, day out. whatever training he has or hasn't had, that was on you.
Yeah,
So that's always
true.
a tough one. But then at the end of the day, also you have the person in front of you,
Yeah.
and you need to impress and stress that they do the same, right? And on their end, it's if you're having trouble with something or you're struggling with someone, you go and get help. You have avenues. What are your avenues? You have your team. You have the internet. You have the whatever the avenues are to get help on that problem you're running into.
Sure.
And ask for that help, right? So then you have that aspect that you need to stress upon your teammates. So it's a double-edged sword. So I'm taking full responsibility. I got to get him to also, otherwise.
Sure.
It's not gonna work out for him.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. What about books? What books are you reading right now? Are you reading any books? Do you have any book recommendations that you'd say, hey, if you haven't read this book, this is to your staff and maybe to people that are watching, like, what are you reading? I feel like one of the things that I do appreciate about you is that you seem to be an aggressive learner. You move in a place of humility to say, look, we've accomplished great things as a company, and we want to accomplish greater things. And I think that comes from the desire and capacity, the appetite for growth and learning. What do you do for you personally? What kind of disciplines do you have in place? Are you reading any books? Anything that you can share with us about that?
Yeah, I mean, the last book I just read was called $100 Million Leads by Alex Ramosi. It's a really, really good book. He's a really, really good marketer. He's the owner of a company called acquisition.com. He's very big on social media and stuff. But yeah, he's a really good marketer, and he really has an understanding for the process of marketing to and acquiring clients this book applies to any business across the board. It can even apply to someone who's just a salesperson who's technically in business for themselves. But that was a really good book, and I would 100% highly recommend that. But yeah, I do like to read. I would say it's very important, something you said, but it's very important to always maintain and understand what you know, what you're good at, and then also know what you don't know and what you could get better at, and always maintaining that. No matter how good you are at an industry or a skill, you can always get better. And if you look at the greatest people of all time in any given thing, you look at like basketball greats like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James. Look at these guys. What do? They wake up every morning and they do the deal. They're up at 5 a.m. and they're at the gym and they're doing the deal, and then they're on the court and they're shooting the free throws, or they're working on their three-pointer, or they're working on this dribbling drill, whatever the thing may be. But they just constantly are working on perfecting their craft. And that's the key, is to never settle, never go, oh, good, I got it. Or, no, always be kind of relentless in that pursuit of greatness or perfection when it's never going to be attainable, but that constant pursuit. So I believe in that fully. And I try to apply that to my life here and working as, okay, a roofing business owner. Okay, well, I'm never going to be the perfect roofing business owner, but I can keep going after it and after and after it and try to get as good as I can be.
Awesome. I love that answer. Okay, couple more, and then we're probably getting close on time. What about what's your favorite type of roof? Like, what's your like? I mean, I love this type of roof. What's that favorite one?
My favorite type of roof, man. I love them across the board, man. But I love a unique challenge. Like I remember we had John Chan from the Durable Slate Company on the podcast a few weeks ago, and I remember I did his brother's roof, Michael. I did his house in Clearwater. And it was these flat roofs, and it was just a unique challenge. There were, I think, 6 or 7 different flat decks, and one had a circular thing like this. We had to do the drip edge in a specific way, and had this special circular skylight we had to special order. And it was there were these railings. We had to take the railings off, bring the TPO in, put the railings back up, reset them. Like, it was just some specific challenges. It wasn't just, oh, great, replace the flat roof in the back. This was a lot, and I remember I did it with a lot of the guys we still have here at the team now, and it was tough. It was probably 4 days we were out there pushing through, but just that feeling when you're done and you push through all those challenges along the way, and you had that beautiful product there, that white TPO, and Michael's really happy with it, and it looked great, and it was functional and everything. There's nothing better than that feeling, that end product. So, but I would say like complicated, interesting, unique. That might mean that it's a sloped roof with a lot of different faces. It might mean that it's a tile roof, but I like unique challenges and unique obstacles to overcome. Like, I like thinking about it and figuring out, how am I going to get that trash off, or how am I going to replace that wood in that weird spot, or where am I going to find that kind of molding? I've never seen that before. Like, I like being challenged. And this one from Michael, for example, really challenged me.
Yeah, those are fun. Those are fun, especially when they come out Right. And
Yes.
and that high bar, the
Yeah.
standard is met and the customer's happy, and like that's a really great feeling.
Yeah.
What about the least favorite? Which ones are you like, oh my gosh, these ones bother me? Or do you have any? You might, so you're, with your attitude, you might not have any. You might like, they're all good.
No, my least favorite, I don't have a least favorite roof. I have a least favorite, like, I mean, where my frustration lies now is like if anything was done not right on a project, and then I have to go and deal with it. But other than that, you know what I mean? Like that's the only thing. But or if I see another contractor do something, they just didn't do it the right way. That's what now frustrates me. But like a type of roof, I don't know. Maybe like a really just some small job, some small house. But even that, you got to go into it with the same mindset. No matter what you're doing, your mindset is to have that client have a great experience. So it doesn't really matter the size or the type at that point.
Okay, last question. If you had this for the next like 30 seconds, give us like, just talk to your team. What would you want your team to know like about you? Like, I mean, be vulnerable, like dig in and go like, hey team, this is what's most important to me as a man, not even as a CEO. Be really as vulnerable as you can with that question.
Yeah. Most important to me as a man.
I can give you some hints.
No,
like
I can answer this question. I mean, it's a really interesting question. But where I would go with that is I would say the most important thing, just overall, I mean, here we are on this earth and we're people interacting together, living together, and we're in a society together, right? So for me, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing for the people. And when you look at that, then I believe in just like our core values, just integrity, doing the right thing, and being a good person to your fellow man.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what that other person next to you is going through. Yeah. You don't know what that person across the table might have gone through in the last 2 weeks, in the last month, or last whatever. So I think it's important that we live our lives and we do our work and we produce and do things in such a way to think with that other person in mind. That's my number one thing that's most important to me, because I know that if I feel that way and I act that way in my life, I know that people are going to act that way back to me. And then that's when life is good, when people are being honest, they're operating with integrity, they're being decent, and things go well. So
that's awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us today. What a great, thank you for the interview.
Yeah, awesome,
it's good to be switching roles.
I'll switch off. And
the next video we'll do is we'll switch. I'll be in that seat. Robin will be interviewing me, and we'll talk about what's next and where
the world of Don Campbell.
The world of Don Campbell. So thank you all.
Thanks, Don.